There we go. Wonderful. Things are generally working and being held together by duct tape. Welcome. It's Plan Mix Play here on Slay Radio once again to entertain you on a Sunday afternoon, morning, evening, depending on where you are. In my part of the world, it happens to be an evening, and I'll be entertaining you here from down under. And take it from me, the whole put another shrimp on the barbie is, yes, that's something every Australian says. Literally. Like, ask anyone, and they're like, yep, say that all the fucking time. Every day. They kind of wake up, you know, they have the routine of they're like, get up in the morning, and they're like, yeah, put another shrimp on the barbie, mate. It's such a common phrase, really. I'm, of course, full of shit. They say no such thing. In fact, I think it's not shrimp. They say, what is it? Prawn? Yes, it's a far more common term over here. I'm glad to see that the visual show has kicked in. People are joining in there. I see Shargo. I see LP Chip. Or rather, maybe not Shargo yet. But it should be up now. I see Shargo writing... Yes, apologies for everything being kind of janky, but that's the way it is when you're building shit. And the bed is about to disappear in a couple of moments. But first and foremost, of course, hello. Thank you for tuning in. Glad to see you here, especially if you are a newcomer. There might be someone from Y Combinator listening in. It's possible. Not super likely, because after all, this is a very niche show. But there was something on Y Combinator about a cool new C64 game someone's put out. So I'm going to talk about that after we get to the first song of the day. And in honor of that, I'm going to... Let's see. Someone requested, I believe it was Antics. Stick with me, everybody. I also have a full script for today. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. Yes, here we go. Someone wanted Sonic Wonder with Antics. And that's luckily in this folder. Bear with me, everyone. This is a professional show. We only do professional things here. Boom. Also, before we play this first request, which came in from Kraut Guy. Hello to you, Kraut Guy. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome along. This system setup, everything, has had issues. In fact, last show... you may remember the music just sort of cut out. Like, suddenly nothing came through. And I've never, ever had that happen ever before. So it may happen again. I wasn't able to track the problem down. I have not looked into it. So beware that it is very possible that things might go sideways at some point. But hey, that's the prototype part of the show. In the meantime, here's Sonic Wonder, Antics Back from the Dead for Kraut Guy. Yes, and the old fade out there at the end by Sonic Wanderer Antics Back from the Dead, requested by Kraut Guy, who also had a bit of a message attached to his request. He said, "A wonderful good morning. I'd like to have Antics Back from the Dead by Sonic Wanderer. ... And yeah, I hope hope that ticked the box for you, Kraut Guy, because it certainly did for me. And people are throwing a few other requests in, which is fan-fucking-tastic. Oh man, I gotta tell you guys, it's good to be back. I've been away for a couple of weeks. I'm hoping to make this a little more regular thing here, and I do want to say a couple of things because LP Chip is suggesting a few things. He's hanging out in the chat on PmpVsPartialComebackTrilogy, and by the way, you can too if you are tuned into the show and you'd like to see the visual output that comes with the show that is going to be progressively changing and better as the show goes on. You can go to PmpVsPartialComebackTrilogy.com, and I would also like to plug SlayRadio.net. But look, let's be honest here. If you are listening to the show and you don't know either of these two sites, I don't know what's going on. I guess you might be just tuning in on the recorded YouTube stream. It's also very possible. Either way, hello, welcome. I'm Gazoo. I'm here with you. We're hanging out. We're doing a show. Well, I'm doing a show, and you're listening. And I'm a big fan of all this inclusiveness, but I guess it rubs me a bit the wrong way. Kind of when you see people doing Let's Plays or on Twitch, like playing a game, succeeding, and it becomes yeah, we did it. Like, we beat the boss. No, you beat the boss. You're the player. We were, I guess, here cheering you on, and the cheer had an impact, but it's kind of like saying, to me, in a way, it's like, oh, Peter Schmeichel didn't win. We won. Like, Formula One was won by the crowd. No, he won, but, his fans can bask a bit in his reflected glory. But at the end of the day, Peter Schmeichel drove that Formula One car. That's just a little bit of a bonus rant there. There are going to be a few, in fact. I have a whole script here. If you can hear my mouse clicking around, it's because I have a script I'm going to pull up. I'm going to talk a bit about Nier Automata. I'm going to talk a bit about a short anecdotal story from me being on Tokyo. I'm going to talk about the sad, negative side of successful venture. I'm also going to be talking a bit about annoying YouTube ad-based success pitches. And finally, I'm also going to talk a little bit about choosing beggars and something I wish companies really would stop doing. I know it sounds like tremendous clickbait. Oh, if only companies would stop doing this one thing. 8 things I wish the companies would stop doing. Number 5 will surprise you. God, I hate clickbait. Anyway, let's take another song. There are plenty of requests in the pipeline, but I also like just, throwing in a choice of my own every now and again, just to pad it out, because, I don't know, it's what I do. It's my show. Oh, yeah, we haven't had a bit of that in a while. Let's take Instant Remedy with Lazy Jones the Medley. Now, that's a song. I think we can all agree on that. That is an actual song. Take it away, Instant Remedy. instant remedy with the Lazy Jones medley, just for me, because I wanted to hear that. And I am always keen on any audience member who provides any sort of feedback or even criticism. No, obviously my system's perfect. Like, there's no need to criticize anything at all. It never crashes. There's never any dropout of audio. It doesn't play the songs at the wrong frequency. What else doesn't it do? I think that's the major things. I'm sure there's a bunch of other stuff it doesn't do either, but those are like the major thing it totally never does. Of course, it does all of those things quite a lot. So, hey, criticisms and critiques are very welcome, especially when they're about features. So I want to nab this one in the bud before we get any further. One of them was LP Chip saying, hey, it'd be pretty cool if the chat on the site gave a bit of a hint and a heads up that, hey, now the stream is live. And yes, actually, the thing that needs to be done is the site needs to be a little bit more tolerant to the show, should I say, the YouTube stream not being readily available at the time the show is scheduled to start. So right now, the website will behave in such a way that up to the point of the show commencing, it will basically poll YouTube and be like, hey, is there a show? Is there a show? And as soon as it surpasses that one point in time, that's at this end of the at this end of the world, as soon as it heads towards 8 o'clock here, and it gets right past that, it will then forget the show ever existed, because now the show is in the past, and then no longer be as diligent about showing the site in like pre-show mode, which is a mistake. It should totally show if it still hasn't found a show commencing, and the I guess the time since the show was supposed to start is within 5-10 minutes, then it should assume that the show has not been canceled, things are progressing as planned, the show just isn't quite ready yet, and it should stay in sort of chat mode. And it doesn't do that at all. That's a site thing. Furthermore, Shargo also suggested some features about how about changing the color of the chat and a few chat-related things to activate. And yes, I'm so there with you, Shargo. Like, writing exclamation point load or something, it would be cool if like the outer bars were changed or something. Especially because with an audience size of 4 people in the chat, that's fine. Like, that's totally okay. It would be, if this show ever grows in popularity, which we'll try to make sure happens, then some more care needs to be put into how to control certain visual elements. But for now, it's totally fine. Like, I would have no problems at all giving you guys a lot of power in terms of manipulating a couple things here and there. And it's in the works. That is a great idea, something I've been considering myself. So yeah, thumbs up, Shargo. I'm fully on board. It's only not there yet because of time and efforts going other places. Right, and speaking of Shargo, he also had a little request. He wanted coffee, and I hope you've gotten your coffee, because I can't transzoom coffee over to you. So instead, I'll play your request, which is a song I've yet to hear. This is a remix from Kiss Copy. Have remixed Gina Sisters Stage 4. Now, that's a little unusual. Usually it's always the theme song or the second kind of underground level. So here is Stage 4 Gina Sisters by Kiss Copy.
A negyedik szintre lépett. A negyedik szintre lépett.
What exactly was that? Omega snitar triplet. Not too much happening here at the end of this song, huh? Meh, 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 meh. Kiss copy Gina Sisters Stage 4 for Shargo. And Rasper saying Todd Howard, the Beshta guy, how speaks when they relaunching games or shows. I'm not sure I follow there. I'm still not sure exactly who Todd Howard is. It was probably, look, it's one thing to ask, it's another thing to probably look him up online and go like, why don't I just type in Todd Howard? He is, American video game designer, director, producer. Bethesda, right, Bethesda. I presume that you're referencing, Raspor, the whole Fallout 76 debacle that is going on now, where most of Bethesda's forums are on fucking fire. People are mad. Oh man, in case you haven't heard, people are pretty upset because the game is not nearly what they were expecting or told, sort of. I'm sure you can find no endless. That's become the content mill. Like, I also have to say, I'm disappointed that mainstream media, like I saw, this has become big enough news that even the public service news broadcast stations in Denmark have picked up the story about how angry people are about Bethesda shitting the bed. And in it, they actually misquote Fallout 76 as Fallout 73 somewhere in the article. And that's just bad journalism, really. But yeah, Raspor is pointing out that he was making a bunch of claims prior to it launching, it apparently just working. And what I've heard, among other things, is someone, I don't know if it's Todd Howard, but I believe there are quotes out there from some spokesperson from Bethesda saying, hey, it's got everything you want out of a Fallout game. Like, don't worry, even though Fallout 76 is going to be very different, it's going to have everything that you want. And then, in addition to that, I have seen that there's been like a big issue with their with the collector's version of it, the Power Armor Edition as it's called, where you get like a real Power Armor helmet. Of course, well, when I say real, I mean like a plastic facsimile. You're also supposed to get a really cool bag that was supposed to be a canvas bag, which I believe is a kind of a heavy-duty weave, like sort of a military grade, at least a very upgrade or high grade materials bag. And instead, it turns out when people were starting to receive their collector's edition, it was made of nylon, which is sort of a more plasticky, thin weave kind of thing. And people have been, well, grabbing their pitchforks and lighting torches on fire and, you know, marching the internet forums. And apparently Bethesda's response to this up to now has been, we're sorry, here's $5 worth of online credit for Fallout as a result. Apologies. I think that's really, really poor form on their behalf. Like, that is a terrible way to treat your customers. Because most people who bought that edition have paid upwards of $200, and most of those people will probably just want the bag that they were promised, and that's what makes this whole situation so crummy. At no point in time did Bethesda say whatsoever that they had changed the bag from one type to another. That was never communicated. People only learned of this the moment the collector's edition arrived. And sure, things are subject to change, but only to a certain degree. Look, I'm not a bag expert, so I can't really say I can't tell you if it's the difference between, you know, promising a gold statue and delivering one made of lead, but it sounded like it was a significant quality downgrade. So yeah, there you have it. And Immortal is saying, okay, so we have 3 places to chat now. How do I get in the chat that you can see in the YouTube channel? Well, first of all, Immortal, and anyone else listening in, you can chat wherever you want. Like the site-based website chat, and if you're wondering how to get in on that, you need to register at PmpVsPartialComebackTrilogy-PartTwo, and then you can join there. And then you should be able to see a chat interface on the front page. And that is basically because that chat integrates directly into the visuals. That's what that chat is mainly for. And it's only online when the show is actually running. So it's not like IRC that's, you know, you can hang out all the time. And also hello to Wakani. And also hello to Lord Evil, who isn't on any chats, but just hanging out at home, doing his thing. Man, I'm never going to get to the start of my script, so why don't we just take another song? This time I will play a request by LP Chip, who wanted some Puffy 64 Last Ninja 2 hymn. So yeah, LP Chip, this one is for you, and also welcome Immortal to the chat.
Everywhere, enemies leaving Will my quest ever end? Will my quest ever
And then it just fades out and keeps going and yeah, stuff. And anyone who's listening in and thinks the feed is looking slightly blurry, pro tip, switch from 240, is it 240? I think 240 up to 1080. And yes, you don't really need 1080 for the things that are on screen generally. You might need them for the video feed. I every now and again pipe through. I'm glad some people appreciate it. LP Chip, much appreciate the comment. But now, god damn it, it's time to talk about some stuff that I've noted down here, because I don't just script this nonsense out for nothing. I do try and make the show at least semi-interesting. So yeah, let's talk a bit about Nier Automata. I've been playing this game for a while because it was on a lot of people's last year's top 10 of like must-play games. And there's a major sort of spoiler warning here. So if you haven't played it and you want to know nothing about it, then I don't know, skip ahead a bit, a couple minutes. Not gonna talk too long about it, but I am gonna say a little bit. And before we get to that, yes, absolutely, LP Chip, I know the colors in the chat, it makes it very difficult to follow. It is, I'm well aware of that, and whenever I get the time, I will get to it. Anyway, getting back to Nier Automata. So, I read a lot of positive stuff about the game, and while I will agree it's a good game, I'd say I'd have trouble placing it on my must-play pile. That is to say, the pile that I've seen a lot of people put it through. I'm on the third playthrough now, and that sounds ridiculous, right? That I'm saying I'm playing it for the third time, and I'm not sure it's a must-play. But hear me out. It has a lot of ups and downs, and one of the things about Nier is that when I say third playthrough, think of it almost as the third chapter, because that game fucking keeps going for a while. I don't know, it's just not compelling enough. I've put about 28 hours into it, which is quite a lot. But I feel like there should be a more compelling reason to put even more time into it, and I'm just having sort of an okay time. I think the most impressive thing about the game is how long it is. Like, every time you finish the game, when you start another playthrough, it's basically more new, it's basically more new video gamey stuff. Like, you're not playing the same game again. It's a new chapter, it's new stories. Some of the stuff repeats a little bit, but it is a lot of new stuff. So every time you think the game is about to wrap up and you're like, all right, guys, we're finished. This is it. This is the ending. The credits are running. No more stuff. Turns out there's another 10 hours of play time. But my 2 points of criticisms mainly about Nier Automata is, first of all, I find the story in many ways hella confusing. I don't really understand exactly what makes the game is about machines and androids, and I don't really understand what makes machines and androids different from one another. I also don't really get why there are apparently some androids that are born out of machines. There's a bunch of talk about corruption of I guess, the mental state of androids, and corruption getting, like, consciousness getting lost. It's a very... Like, it touches on a lot of pretty deep topics, which is probably what a lot of people like about it. And I do think that's interesting. But when there's when lots of it is hard to understand or doesn't seem to have any explanation behind it, like, some characters will seemingly die only to say, oh, I hacked into the network and through its peer-to-peer blockchain connection, I'm still alive. And then I'm like, okay, but if I don't have any sort of frame of reference for how this universe works, it's hard to get too attached. And I think the most compelling thing throughout the whole game is that at some point you're kind of given us a main motivator. You play the androids, by the way. I know I'm kind of talking all over the place, so someone who hasn't played the game is probably confused as hell. Sorry about that. But you play as the androids, and your main motivation for doing what you do in the game changes quite drastically halfway through the game. And I think it's a smart change. So yeah, but personally I find the story quite confusing, which is then hard for me to keep going. And the other thing I think this is the other detriment, is the gameplay is so repetitive. The most interesting thing about the combat, it's a third-person action game. Think a bit like Devil May Cry, or even Dark Souls, but without all the difficulty. It's more just like a fighting, run and gun kind of game. The most interesting thing about the game is almost the enemy variety that kind of comes through the game. Like every enemy you meet is a little bit different than the last one. You have to deal with things a little differently. But it doesn't change much beyond that. In fact, how you engage enemies only shifts at one point through the game. There's one point in the game where how you engage enemies changes a bit, and you can sort of mix it up a bit with that. But that's kind of it. And I find that, the combat is nowhere near as deep as, say, something like Devil May Cry. I may compare it to that in style, but it doesn't have anywhere near the depth. And it's this second point I feel really hurts the game. Even with a slight variation in side quests, the majority of the game just kind of ends up being run here, kill some people. Now run over here, kill some other people. Run some more, kill some more. And since this, combat only has limited depth, I don't know, it's just hard to keep going. An LP Chip highlights the difference between androids and machines should be an android is a machine that is shaped is a machine shaped like a human, whereas a machine doesn't have to be shaped like a human. Then it's a machine. Fair enough. I can't even tell you if that's the Nier Automata definition of it. It seems to more be like, I interpret almost Nier Automata's machine and android as being two different races, because it has a lot of parallels with sort of, let's just say it touches on some very lofty subjects. Anyway, finishing off with the combat, if I compare how the combat in Nier is to, say, something like Batman, and I'm talking about the Arkham series from the Rocksteady crew, when I played Batman Arkham City, the second game, that I actually had so much fun with the combat, I actually started playing a mini game that they put in there, which was just about duking it out. Like, it was just about the combat system, fighting more and more difficult enemies. And there was really no upper limit to the complexities. Whereas in Nier, the enemies are generally either quite manageable or it's way, way too difficult. In fact, there's only been a single boss throughout the whole game that I felt was quite difficult in general. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, those are my short, abbreviated 10-minute thoughts? 8-minute thoughts, 7-minute thoughts on Nier Automata. But hey, look, if you want a game that has a very lengthy story and you get a lot of value for $60, look, I wouldn't say I would recommend it as a pretty solid game. I don't know if I'd put it in my top 10. Anyway, enough jibber jabber from me. Let's take another request. Lord Evil, who's listening in, but not in any of the chats apparently, he wanted a bit of Berserk with Labyrinth. Take it away, Berserk. little bit of Berserk there for you with Labyrinth. Thanks to Lord Evil. Thank you for requesting that, Lord Evil. And I already got the next song lined up. Appreciate people requesting things. And before I forget, because I have already forgotten and now remembered again, I wanted to mention a C64 sort of demake, I think is an appropriate term, of Portal. In fact, let me just write this address in here. So at that address, that's www.jamiefuller.com/portal. You can see that in the visual output of the show, in case you're wondering. In fact, I'll just paste that in IRC as well. That's an address to a C64 demake of Portal. I haven't tried it, but it looks pretty cool. It looks like a lot of work went into it. So yeah, by all means, check that out. I always think it's pretty cool to see when people sort of envision, hey, what if this game could have existed back in the day? And I think I think another game that comes to mind definitely is Retro City Rampage, which I believe it's so damn crazy that I believe the author behind that game even put together a NES version of it. Like it's effectively Grand Theft Auto 1 or 2, a top-down sort of game where you can get into vehicles and get out of them and drive around the city and take missions and stuff like that. And I believe that was all actually ended up running on a regular Nintendo Entertainment System, which is just crazy. And I believe there was also another, what was it? There was sort of like a light gun based draw shooting game as well. And I think the most impressive part about that one was that not only was it an really interesting game idea, someone also, like the people who built this sort of NES game where you, in fact, I should try and Google that while the next song is on, unless someone else knows it and can link it. They put together an ad for it, which looks like it's straight out of the 80s. Like it's such a perfect homage to like 80s Nintendo television ads from America. It was really, really well done. I'll see if I can't find that and post a link. I've forgotten what it's called though. In the meantime, I have another topic that I want to rant a little bit about. Actually, this is actually a very short. I'll bunch these two together. One was, while I was in this is no rant, this is just a little bit of an anecdote. So I was in Tokyo, and while there, I took the time to peruse a number of arcade halls. In fact, I was in a ton of arcades because I had a bunch of free time, and even in Japan, arcades are drying up. Like, there just isn't any. These days, everyone has a home console of some kind. Everyone can basically afford to have a system at home that can run games that are fast enough to kind of, enjoy the sorts of entertainment people would like. So arcades, for those not in the know, and I imagine there's only a few people in here, I'm almost certain I'm really saying a lot of superfluous stuff here, but arcades come from a time where the hardware was just so prohibitively expensive, so it wasn't really possible to sell the hardware to homeowners. So instead, you basically, sold our expensive hardware to arcade owners who'd buy it for a couple of grand, and we're talking like a couple of grand back in like 80s money, and then basically, rent the experience to consumers. So consumers would come by, pay a quarter or 50 cents or a dollar or whatever you have, and they would play that game for a couple of minutes, and then it was all over. And then at some point around, I'd say mid to late 90s, the consoles kind of started catching up with them. Like computer hardware became such a huge market that there was a tremendous push for making things cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And eventually got to the point where the consoles that you were buying for your home were more or less effectively almost duplicates of the arcade machine hardware. There were, at the end, like near the very end, some of the changes would be like the Naomi board from Sega was basically a Dreamcast with more RAM in it. So the stuff you would play in arcades would usually just be like an arcade exclusive for like half a year, and once it had kind of earned all the money it could earn, the biggest chunk of change it could earn in arcade, then a home port would make its way to homes. And these days, I've seen a bunch of really cool arcade games. There was a really cool dance, like a newer version of Dance Dance Revolution, which instead of having like up, down, left, right arrows, basically had an entire I think it was about 2 meters by 1.8 meters or something. It was a little longer than it was wide. And clearly using a Kinect or something as well to sort of detect where you were. And that was really cool. Like, it even was able to detect if you, like, stood sideways to the camera and did the Running Man. Like, I thought that was actually a really, really cool game. And that's kind of where arcades have gone now. Like, they can't really provide better hardware in terms of, like, processing power. So the hardware they provide instead is, like, custom sort of controller systems that are uniquely tailored to a specific game. So you can still get some really unique experiences there. What you can also get in Japan is you can get your ass handed to you in Street Fighter 2. So Street Fighter 2 still has a massive following. I'm sure if anyone here watches Evo, Street Fighter 2 is very much still a thing. And in one particular arcade called Taito Hei, I believe, they have like a couple linked Street Fighter 2 machines that cost 10 yen a play. That's fucking 10 yen is like 10 cents. And we're talking like 10 cents in today's sense. It's nothing. It's less than nothing. And I'd only basically seen these machines be manned by pros who were just kind of duking it out with other pros. And then at some point I was there on, I think, an Idle Tuesday, and one of them was empty. And I was like, yeah, why not? I could play a bit of Street Fighter 2 for 10 yen. Like, that's nothing. I'm game. I sit down, play. I don't even get through the first round before it says, here comes a new challenger. So yeah, basically someone sat down at the linked machine, and I think the first round we played, which I actually won, and mind you, this is a round, this wasn't a game I ended up taking, was just because they were kind of toying a bit with me, engaging whether or not I was any good at all. And as soon as they could tell that I wasn't completely and utterly crap, they were then, all right, game on. I'll show you how to do this. And I just had my ass handed to me. So I lost the second and the third round, put in another 10 yen, once again, got the shit beat out of me. And I was like, all right, I'm out. Thanks. Like, thanks Japan. Thanks for showing me how it's done. Still fun. Let's save this next rant for after this song here. Yeah. Oh, and Shargo says that he can get his ass handed to him about anywhere, including kindergartens, when it comes to games like Street Fighter. Yeah, you know, I would say I have a passing skill in that game. Like, nowhere near competition levels, but I can pull off a number of moves somewhat consistently. Not all the time, though, but consistently. Anyway, up next is a request by Crax Ultima, who wanted David Filskow, Thrust Power, featuring Jesper from Press Play on Tape. I've not heard this version before. Take it away, David Filskow. another nice fade out there. That was David Filsko, Thrust Power, featuring Jesper of Press Play on Tape, the C64 group, which do awesome stuff. Requested by Crax Ultima. So thank you very much, Crax Ultima, for requesting that. In case you don't know, Press Play on Tape, I believe they played recently. They were at a recent... They were at a recent like live event. I forget the name, but yes. Also, I wanted to look up that NES game. I'm gonna have to remember that for the next song. I'll be honest and say I'm just a little incredulous and surprised that nothing has crashed or broken. Like, that is, of course. So I'm pretty sure last time something went wrong, that is the audio cut out fully. What also happened was I basically had just finished saying, of course, something like, "Oh, I can't believe things are still," and then everything went sideways. But I totally do not believe in, in that sort of nonsense. With I don't think they believe in, or I don't believe in that sort of karmic stuff. And also, just to follow up what a few people are saying in the chat, Immortal and LP Chip are chiming in on the topic at hand. Immortal, among other things, notes that, it's about the controls and the experience. And yes, I mean, look, that's the thing about arcades is they have to deliver something you can't get anywhere else. And since the horsepower is no longer a factor they can deliver uniquely on, I'm not surprised to see that a lot of arcade stuff tends to go a little bit in the direction of cool controllers or, just some sort of cabinet that does something unique. And there are a couple of things to say in this regard. One, one of them is that I'm kind of bummed out that there's a bunch of really cool games that you'll never see outside of Japan. Oh, and by the way, thanks LP Chip. LP Chip chimes in and says Bit Live. That was the event. Yes, recently Bit Live. Press Play on Tape, I believe, was there. Anyway, in the Japanese arcades, you'll see games that are much more brittle and much more delicate than you'd ever see outside of Japan. Just because in Japan, people sort of culturally are more, wary of, more wary of not breaking things, whereas put some of the hardware I've seen in Japan anywhere in Europe, and you'd have it busted within a week, literally. Like, depending on the arcade, of course, if it's somewhat closed off and there's someone kind of manning the place, but like put certain machines in an unmanned arcade for just a couple of days, and the controls will be smashed to bits. And that's such a bummer, because it means there are some really cool ideas that just can't ever leave Japan, because you can't build a controller that's robust enough, basically. I remember seeing, so I've seen a bunch of Konami produced kind of Guitar Hero-like games in Japan. There's actually a shit ton of them. And the guitar controller is very similar to that found in the home version of Guitar Hero. Now, at some point, I saw an arcade version of Guitar Hero here in Australia. And it was basically just a PC running Guitar Hero 3. But I'll never forget picking up the controller. It was basically a heavy, clunky fucker where it was much, much harder to actually play any of the songs properly, because it, like, any sort of finicky, tiny bits were built in such a way that they were much more robust, but also much less responsive, unfortunately. And yeah, Shargo, it is a real bummer. It's sad that people, the public at large just can't really be trusted with things like that. The other thing that's very interesting about the Japanese arcade market is that because the population there is so dense, they can afford to throw a lot of money at something and make something really special just to kind of make a prestige project out of it. So I remember seeing when Outrun 2 hit the arcades, they actually built like a scaled up model of it where you would have 5 cars, and I'm talking about actual car-sized cars next to each other, side by side, running the game in front of them, and the controls would be hooked up in such a way that every car would be playing its own version on a big screen in front of it, and the cars would physically sort of move forwards and backwards depending on who was out in front. So the game would sort of synchronize the positioning of the cars. So of course there was a certain limit to how far behind a car could go. I think it was like 2 meters or something. But it was such a cool idea in my opinion. I would have loved to try that version of it. I didn't even get to see it, and I'm pretty sure there was only ever one of them built. Like, it's not unheard of for Japan to crank out these special editions of certain arcade games just for like making it a big splash and a big showing. For example, I've played the special edition of House of the Dead 4, which is actually like you're sitting in a sort of rotating seat that kind of spins you back and forth, and there's stuff going on in front of you and behind you. That being said, that thing made me incredibly nauseous because at certain points in the game, you're being spun around constantly. So to be honest, I did not find it to be super pleasant, but it's still cool to see that it, exists. We're already over 1 hour, and I haven't only gotten through like 1 or 2 of my rants here, and I've kind of, constantly found diversions. I just think we're going to play another song, because I'd rather space out the songs sort of properly than get through all this ranty ravey stuff, because if we're left with, too many rants and time has run out, then we're just going to save them for the next show. So I am a bit sorry about that, because I would like to portion it out, but I also don't want to talk and talk and talk and talk. I bet a bunch of people are just listening for the music. Speaking of music, Wakani, you've requested a bunch of stuff, but I've picked one of your requests, Infamous with 4Raf, because I really like the song myself. And yeah, Shargo, it was quite nauseating. Shargo says, I'm getting nauseous just thinking about those spinning seats. And yes, it's... Anyway, Wakani, among your requests was Infamous 4Raf. Here it is. Infamous with for Raf. And yes, of course, that comment was just in jest. I love the interactive audience. That's what makes the whole show worthwhile. So me, poking a bit of that is, of course, a bit of fun. And thank you, Wukani, for requesting that song, Infamous with For Raf. And also, doing the show today reminds me a bit of how far all of this has come. Like, I remember using PmpVsPartialComebackTrilogy. I'll get to that in a bit, LP Chip. I remember using PmpVsPartialComebackTrilogy back in the days where it couldn't load songs that were on disk after I had started the program. So basically, if someone requested a song that I did not have in my catalog at the start of the show, then I would be unable to play it. And I'm sure I've commented on that countless times. If you did a super cut of how many times I've said that, it would basically be, I'm sorry, but I can't. I'm sorry, but I can't. Like, it would just be one long tirade of me saying that once the show has started, no can do. And it isn't as if that's been solved in a very, it isn't as if it's been solved in a, how should I say, pretty manner. It's just been more solved indirectly, because now I have a sort of a directory browser built in that works better, is a bit more, it kind of updates as it is. And yes, as Immortal says, yes, the good old days of not side loading. Indeed. I'm hoping to also not go back to the good old days or I'm hoping to also stay with the good old days of not crashing. The whole thing about making the program more complex and doing more stuff is there's more to break. But I'm look, all things being considered, everyone also Shargo saying, no idea who requested brand new songs at your early shows. Yeah, I don't know either. Certainly not you. So I was saying I do really like that things are working as well as they are now, which is, of course, to say barely, but they are sort of working. Like, the chat is kind of running, the site is kind of working. It's been a shit ton of work, but I'm pretty happy to see it all up and running. Like, it does warm my heart. And in that regard, why don't I just talk a little bit about what's going to happen? So, first of all, I believe I'll be making the third and final comeback special show next weekend, so expect another show then. I also think that I will be doing shows through the December, because I will be going on holidays a bit early, but I intend to take this microphone setup with me, because I'll be in Germany, which means I'll be broadcasting at a European evening hour. So from around mid-December and maybe 1 or 2 weekends, maybe just one. I guess it depends a bit on the dates, because look, even over Christmas and New Year's, I'll want to do New Year's and Christmassy things. And yeah, hey, don't worry, when I say final, Immortal, what I mean is as in like the final comeback, because I wanted to do like a triple. I don't know why I decided on doing 3 shows as a comeback special, and like like why I decided to portion it out, but it's the way it is. Anyway, back to the script before I forget. I wanted to talk a little bit about successful ventures, and this is more. Let me give you a bit of context. So, PmpVsPartialComebackTrilogy is growing. I'm pretty happy to see things working. I'm working on a bunch of stuff that I could show you in the visuals on the stream, but I'd rather show them when they're almost like completely bug tested and done and look cool. Like if I showed you some stuff now, it's kind of like that ugly video of me every now and again. It just pops up in the corner. It doesn't really mesh very well with the visuals. And I really like to have things a bit more polished. I know they generally say show people as early as possible. But these are things that I'm pretty sure you guys will at least, either you'll be indifferent or you'll think, oh, that's a neat idea. So yeah, I am working on a bunch of stuff here. It's also cool to hear a lot of people will be available through December. Mortal says he'll be in his holidays from 12th of December to 6th of January. That's good to hear. Anyway, so But the point is to actually take Plan Mix Play local, which sounds pretty weird and reverse, because right now I'm broadcasting globally to a select audience, but I really want to start doing some local shows. So I've been working very hard on having features ready that might be appealing to a local audience. And also, I've been thinking a bit about parties and how to make parties, because there's every chance that I try and pitch this idea of doing a cool visual audio show, and people I talk to go like, yeah, but what I have now works. Why should I change it? Like, I hire a DJ, the DJ plays, and that's the end of it. Like, why should I work with you when what I have is good enough? So I've also been thinking a bit about if it were to come to me having to organize an event of my own. And I used to do a bit of event organization in Tokyo. When I was back in Tokyo these 2 past weeks, I played at a couple of gigs that a good friend of mine, you will know him as Phil the co-host, or was it the guest host? Either way, that he arranged. And it got me thinking about successful business ventures, and especially one at parties. And this is the thing. I'm sure someone smarter than me has thought of this before, so this is probably not an original idea, but it is an interesting one, I find, which is the very best of parties, I believe, are also the parties that will most quickly succumb to their own success or become less enjoyable. Like, if anyone here has gone to like house parties or sort of not exclusive, but just somewhat semi-known events, there's kind of a happy medium. There's a certain optimal. So it's interesting because Immortal used mediocrity, and it's more like there's a happy optimal stage for how big parties can grow. And I'd argue it's a combination of like very passionate promoters and like a core group of maybe 20, 30 people, maybe even up to 50. And then like their surrounding network of around 100 or so. And here comes the saddest part. The more fun everyone has at a sort of a new event that's sort of an up and coming event that's being organized, the more word of this event and how great and fun it is will spread, and that will lead directly to its undoing. Like the better the event goes, the more fun people have, the higher the chance of it being spread via word of mouth, and thus also the higher chance that the number of people coming next time will be even bigger, and that will usually not work out well for the event. Like I've in rare occasions have I attended a couple events where sure enough they were like just at their like optimal stage, and then the next couple of events it grew bigger and bigger and bigger, and usually even if like the best you can hope for is that the event organizers have experience with growing a party, so they sort of know how to manage the growth. But you still sort of lose a little bit of that magic, because there's a certain cool magic to having just a certain number of people where everyone sort of knows each other peripherally. Whereas if you take something like, I'll give you an example, like if anyone has attended Sensation White, I think is the one I've heard the most of, those are parties on a scale where nobody knows each other anymore. Like you might as well go to a music festival, but it's maybe even more anonymous because you're not in a event space. You're not like on a festival ground for days. You're just at a giant arena event for one single night. So meeting new people and talking to new people doesn't really happen. So yeah, it kind of bums me out thinking about, event makers out there when they kind of reach this optimal plateau. That's also the point at which they have the highest chance of everything kind of fucking up, or at least not being as cool as it used to be, which is, I don't know, it's a bit of a bummer. It's just a thought. But that's enough thinking. We've done too much thinking. Now it's time for more music. Maltus is tuning in, and Maltus wanted a bit of Luke Hash with Aliens. I believe you want Alien, because I'm not aware of Luke Hash doing any versions of Aliens. So you're just going to get Alien here. Yes. So take it away, Luke Hash.
As we play Alien.
Lukash with Alien for Maltus. Thank you very much for requesting that, Maltus. Next on the list, this is a short but proper rant here. This is there's been an influx of annoying YouTube ads, and it's the classic kind of nonsensical, here's a get rich quick scheme kind of thing. And this time it's some dude called Jeff Bishop. And Jeff Bishop really wants you to up your game when you're trading stocks or options or anecdotes or what the fuck do I know. But it just has all the telltale signs of a scammy deal. Like, he says things that I've heard a bazillion times before from these sorts of ads. It's like, hey, if you want to be the top number 1% of all traders, you can't do what the other 99% are doing. This coming from a YouTube ad attempting to reach as many as possible. Like, you're advertising on a platform that has over 2 billion viewers, and you're telling them not to be like everyone else. So technically, I guess that means I'm not supposed to listen to your advice because everybody is? And it also doesn't discern who it's for. That's another classic one of like, it's like, I don't care if you're an old trader or if you're brand new to this. No, everybody can follow my new get-rich-quick scheme. And that reminds me of, I think I spoke in an earlier episode about the business summit here in Melbourne with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yes, known business magnate Arnold Schwarzenegger, together with Tai Lopez, fucking proud of my books, 8 Lamborghinis in his driveway up in the Hollywood Hills. Look him up. Craig Has Dysentery is just a fucking awesome channel. Actually, I gotta link that, and also I should also find that NES game I keep saying. But yes, Craig Has Dysentery. I'm gonna link that in the chat because that is just a fantastic channel making fun of Tai Lopez and his own nonsense of get rich quick schemes. But anyway, so Tai Lopez was the guest speaker next to Arnold, and I see him as basically just another, like, he is the guy pulling an audience in. That's what he's there for. Nobody's really there to listen to him. He's like the sidekick piece to Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I bring him up because on the website they had a FAQ, frequently asked questions, and one of them was, who is this event for? And the answer is, and I quote verbatim, if you're in business, entrepreneur, fan, or just curious on what he has to say, then this event is for you. In other words, everybody. Oh, wait, sorry, no, there is one distinction. You have to have $99 that you're willing to part with. Then this is for you. God, it's yeah. I don't know. I forget where I read this, but I remember reading someone wrote an article about the proliferation of these sorts of new schemes that we're developing, and it was usually, they were basically saying, instead of now trying to adopt or apply their methods, this had become like the next big ticket item. The next big ticket item was, instead of adopting these get rich quick schemes themselves, they were just passing them along to other suckers. So for God's sakes, do not give you, even your email address should not be given to these guys, even if it's free. And let me be clear here. I'm not saying that any of these deals have zero value. I'm pretty sure if you give Jeff Bishop your email address, you'll get a book that has some useful information in it. But it's highly, highly overpitched. And I'd argue you're just as likely, if arguably not more likely, to have more success with just going to a library and just looking up any sort of book in there called How to Launch a Successful Business or something similar. Like, the only reason you're going to have genuine success with Jeff Bishop's bullshit or someone else's is because you were already pretty good at hustling. You were already pretty good at kind of, getting things going. And he just kind of provided the last kick you needed. So in that regard, I guess I'm saying, yes, there will probably be 1 or 2 people on planet Earth that will need his very specific type of nonsense to get them going. But for the vast majority, no. Just no. All right, I am going to look up this NES game while we enjoy another request by Shargo, who wanted Mr. T, or MRT, with Atmosphere. Take it away, Mr. T. And we're back again. This time it was Shargo who had requested Mr. T Atmosphere, so thank you very much for requesting that. And Immortal, I didn't even know that Phased Bass was your brother, to be honest. And you said your brother joined in. I presume you mean like in a recent show, because then you go on to say, we tried to do some topics like Kazoo because I love them, but we failed. Well, I'm sure you did all right. I don't think you can really fail as on topics. I mean, you can always improve, but pick something and talk about it, I guess. Just say something interesting, I suppose. I don't know. Usually I find that's perhaps where novice broadcasters, I like the word novice because I think it's a very, and I remember the C64 using it in certain games, and my 3 or 4-year-old self going like, novice? What the hell does that mean? But yeah, it's sort of I think a pleasant way to say beginner. And I think certain novice broadcasters sometimes stumble a little when it comes to keeping the interest level high, because look, even I would say I am a slightly higher amped version of myself on air, because guess what? There's nobody else here. In fact, if you don't believe me, why don't I just go ahead and chuck this webcam thing in there? Boom, here you go. I mean, it's possible there's someone you're not seeing over here on this side. For people who are just listening in, sorry, there's a bit of a video segment. But as you can see over here, there's nothing. There's a door. There's an air conditioning unit, there's my chair, and then there's a deep void behind me, which is basically, that's just a void. Just don't look directly into it. Let me just shift to the side, you can see the void. Yeah, don't stare directly into that void. You were pitching my software? You were on the... Were you on the... Now I'm completely confused. Anyway, regardless, I'm sure you did a bang-up job. I wanted to talk some more, and I wanted to talk about choosing beggars, I think. But I think I'm going to play a song first, and we're in our last half hour here. Shargo, I told you, don't look into the void. We're coming up on the last half hour here. Man, it goes fast. When there's a script involved, the show just kind of runs. This song is for me. It's Feeksoid with Something Stranger. And I'm just gonna chime in over the song while the bed plays out, so to speak. It's a long song. That was Feeksoid with Something Stranger, requested by none other than yours truly. However, coming up next, we do have another listener request, specifically LP Chip, who said, "Hey Gazoo, I'd love to hear Drew with Comic Bakery. Smiley face. Thanks, smiley face." And I presume you mean Moody Wobbler version, because that's the one I have lined up for you in a bit. Right after a little more talk about choosing beggars. Man, so frequent listeners may recall that I become a big fan of choosing beggars. Oh, and I should also mention, someone requested at the beginning of the show, I'd have to scroll up in the... Actually, why don't I do that? I should be able to scroll up in the chat. Someone wanted me to do a bit of DJ Snorkel, and I do appreciate that, but I just haven't really had the time nor the inclination. Like, I do like the DJ Snorkel ones when I find them, but there's... Yeah, here we go. Raspor wanted a bit of DJ Snorkels. Go and dig some up, Kazoo. All in due time. It may return. For now, you'll have to get a few other goodies, which is a bit of choosing beggar stuff. And man, it always puts me in a grand mood to see people who are choosy beggars. For those not in the know, choosing beggars is a subreddit on Reddit, and it's all about people begging for something, as in generally asking for something in exchange for nothing, but then also being very choosy about it. So a good example would be someone coming in and asking for free food, and when you offer them free food, their response is, yeah, but I don't want that free food, I want that stuff over there. That's a definition of a choosy beggar, more or less. And this subreddit has a shit ton of examples of them, and it's always, there are certain patterns that repeat themselves, so you can very clearly see that, like, the human psyche has a number of very set ways that it tries to deal with some of it. So for example, if people reject the choosing beggar, it's not uncommon for this person to then say, well, your stuff is shit anyway. Like, if they ask for someone to draw them something for free, and they say, well, I only do commissions, so no freebies, the person goes, well, your drawings are pretty shit anyway. Or another good response is also often, well, I can get some free stuff somewhere else, so why can't I get yours? And then, of course, the retort is always, well, then get the free stuff wherever you can get it. Like, don't hassle me. And sometimes they'll, go quiet, and other times they'll be, no, but I want your stuff. I just want it to be free. Man, choosing beggars. That's, in fact, I don't even think my choosing beggar stories is so worthwhile. I think I'm just going to skip it. And I'm going to instead talk about YouTube a bit. Because YouTube's premium subscription service is going away. That is to say, it's not disappearing, but it seems to be becoming a lot less useful or worthwhile. So YouTube Premium has sort of tried to rival, I guess, Netflix or certain other big content providers, but haven't thrown nearly as much money at generating original content like, say, Netflix has, or maybe even Amazon or Stan, or like Disney will. So they have had some original shows. Apparently one of the... apparently LP Chip didn't want... I'm confused. You're getting what I picked for you, which is the Moody Wobbler version. Anyway, so apparently the subscription service is going away, and they threw money at content, but not as much as some of the competitors. One of the more notable, I think, big positives to come out of YouTube subscription service, which was for a time being also known as YouTube Red, is Cobra Kai, which is kind of a spiritual success. Well, it's more than that. It's actually a literal sequelized series to the original Karate Kid. That one's actually supposed to be really good as a show. But apparently they found that they did not have enough people signing up for their subscription-based service. So they're now going to release, I think, all of their paywalled content into the open and make the whole thing ad-driven instead. And what occurred to me is I really wish companies and people were a bit more honest about shortcomings and failures. But I get that all the data we have points at this to be a giant mistake. And their premium service is a good example of that. there's a few quotes about the service changing, and so I'm going to quote Kinkle, I believe is one of the names from people of one of the YouTube executives, who stated on the record, "If you look at our originals over the last few years, our main goal was to drive subscribers to YouTube Premium." This person goes on to say, "But through experimentation, we've also learned that we can make a lot of the projects work incredibly well when we make them available free to users." So again, notice that they don't actually say that the attempt failed. They just said, hey, we can also do this, and that actually users seem to really enjoy free shit. Yeah, no shit that they enjoy free shit. How about saying our push to make most of our users into subscribers just didn't work. Like, not enough people signed up, and that's the end of that. But no, instead we don't get that. We get this like, oh, we're focusing on new areas, we're trying to do this, we're trying to do that, and it's it annoys me a bit. And I think no better example is maybe even the lovely president himself, who also seems to be immune to actually stating any negative outcome regarding the presidency. It's always other people's fault, or no, the data is, you're interpreting it wrong, I'm right, blah blah blah. Yeah. Frustrating. Anyway, I noticed that I feel my rants weren't all that worthwhile, so I actually skipped and got through most of them. But in regards to the same free stuff, I am kind of wondering what's going to happen with the new College Humor paid subscription service called Dropout. So College Humor has also decided to paywall a bunch of their new upcoming shows, and they've launched a service called Dropout, and that is sort of the same thing. And I kind of wonder how that's going to go, because a lot of their content is also on YouTube, and that's the thing with with the general public. If you give them something for free for a long time, it doesn't matter how difficult it was to pay, or if you couldn't get a business model up and running. Once people expect to get something for free, they will continue to expect to get that for free. So it also is a little bit at odds for College Humor to suddenly pull a bunch of their shows. Well, the one saving grace for them is none of their free shows have become paid for. They're basically just launching a bunch of new content that is now only paid for, and some of this paid for content will come out into the open in a cut down version. And they allegedly are supposed to still produce a lot of free content. And also, don't let it be said that I'm not, how should I say, empathetic to this quandary. Like, I totally get it. I'm a patron of a couple of YouTube channels. I pay a couple of people like $5 per episode, because I get it. It's like cranking out quality content is not easy. And usually YouTube's algorithm seems to prefer promoting a lot of schlock that's nowhere near as good as other stuff that takes longer to make. So I'm very, very open and understanding of people trying to make sure that they actually get money for what they're producing. Because the general public is quite entitled and usually feels they don't need to pay anything for anything at all if it can be gotten elsewhere for free, which is another rant for another time. In fact, I will now line up our second to last tune, which was Moody Wobbler. And yeah, if as Immortal says, if I'm going to paywall the C64 chat, you'll just move along and get those tracks on carry. Yeah, but you can't get the chat. Cannot get the chat. And also, that'd be ridiculous, paywalling a chat. But hey, worked for AOL for a while. That's the thing. A lot of people don't know that one of the tricks in AOL's bag was basically that even though their service along towards the end of their dominance was much shittier than a lot of the competition, they had successfully established this walled garden where a lot of people had connections on AOL and used the AOL part of the service to get to know and meet people. And that was actually very clever of them. It's not very consumer friendly, but it does help them maintain a customer base that sort of is walled in. Anyway, Drew with Comic Bakery. It's time for a bit of music. Take it away, Drew, and I'll see you guys for the wrap up afterwards.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another epic battle. In the red corner, it's the magnificent Martin Galway. And in the blue corner, it's the amazing award-winning Drew. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for these two. These giants are going head-to-head presenting you Comic Bakery!
Whoa, it's I don't really know where I am, guys. It's kind of a weird space. Makes me wish I had some sort of echo filter I could put on. I should not have gone through that door. Whew, I need an echo filter for this really to work. Anyway, everyone who's not watching the video is going like, what the heck is he on about? Well, that will be just between the 7 viewers and I. I'm in the void. That's what I'm trying to say. Lost in the void. And you will be too if you look into the void. Don't look into the void. That's basically the I think that's the best advice I have for everyone here towards the end of the show. And it is unfortunately the end of the show. We're going to go a little bit over time because I'm only going to start my end track now. And it's always such a, I have a, I kind of jump between a number of slow tunes that I play every now and again, and I think we're gonna go with little bit of defunk because we had none of defunk throughout the show. But I want to thank everyone who is tuning in, everyone in the chat, all of the chats, Tub64, 63, Natherul, Immortal, Shargo, LP Chip. Let's see, I don't want to forget anyone, so I should probably do this. Yep, I'm going to leave and I'm going to rejoin. So everyone on the website chat, Shargo, Raspor, LP Chick, Craps, Ultima, Immortal, and Castrain, thanks for hanging out there. And Kraut Guy, Tub64, AIO, and Lau Reef. Yeah, everyone who's hanging out in IRC and has been here. Lord Evil, who was around earlier. Maltus made a request. Let's see, who else have I hopefully not forgotten? Wokani. Yeah, I mentioned Crax Ultima. I mentioned, anyway, everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. It's been fun. I hope to be back with more features. Yeah, it's been a real pleasure, guys. Last time this outro part worked, and hopefully it will again. So if you're watching the stream, I would say have a look at the stream as we... Oh, see, already there. I almost blew it. I moved things a bit and then everything disappeared. And yeah, LP Chip, you mentioning that your audio is way behind. That's probably because there is a bit of delay going through the Slay radio nodes. I think there might be less going through YouTube, but the quality might be poorer. I have tried to up the audio quality a bit, but rest assured, I will be back again. The plan is to be back next weekend. I've had an awesome time. I do hope that things go as planned here towards the end. Thank you everyone again for tuning in. It's been a lot of fun. I'm going to let Defunk take everyone out with Al Agal Minimalistic Mix. Once again, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. I've had a great time. I hope you have too. And I hope to see you back on this channel again come next Sunday. So yeah, I think that's all for me this Sunday evening. You have a lovely Sunday afternoon, evening, or whatever. See you next weekend.